As the director of the strategic communications, my job is to make sure that all of NCTC's communications are coordinated and across the spectrum. So we have foreign visits to NCTC, about 150 a year. And I want to make sure that those senior government officials from foreign organizations are taken care of and that they understand who we are and what we do. We have there's an Office of Legislative Affairs within the Office of Director of National Intelligence, our partner organization, our parent organization. I work closely with the legislative liaisons to make sure that they are consistent with the information that we have and that we provide, that they are they have the latest intelligence, the latest talking points sometimes on a particular issue. I have a chief of protocol. We have NCTC has domestic representatives located all around the country whose job it is to facilitate our relationships with Joint Terrorism Task Force, making sure that intelligence is getting from the strategic level, that's the president's level, all the way down to the cop on the beat at the JTTF. And then I also, of course, have our press office, and I have a chief of public affairs and a couple of public affairs specialists, communications, design, web design sort of stuff. So I've been in public service for about 20 years, actually for 20 years. Since I graduated high school. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought lawyers helped people. And as probably my junior year in high school, all of a sudden, I don't know what it was, but I got this impression that lawyers don't help people. And so I was looking for something different, and then I was going to be a chemical engineer because I loved chemistry and science. And then I got turned on to the Coast Guard Academy. That's sort of a long story in and of itself, but I ended up going to the Coast Guard Academy. My undergraduate degree is in marine and environmental science with a emphasis on chemistry and biology. I think I sort of laid that out earlier. Like, people who come into communications have to be good communicators, have to be willing to engage an audience. I previously worked before coming over to this job, in legislative affairs. So I was engaging with the Congress pretty regularly, trying to break things down to them, explain to them some very complex topics. Into small bites that they could then get to their members, and I think that sort of set me up well for this position. I also when I worked on Capitol Hill, I worked for two members of Congress in particular who were very interested in sort of engaging the media, and I helped them with that, helped them craft message. I think all of those things, a lot of OJT sort of led me to where I am today. Well, we have insurance. We have a great dental plan. Really, it's if you want to go make a lot of money, you're not going to come to public service. But if you're interested in doing good things, you're going to come to public service. You're going to migrate that way, and it's just going to happen. And that public service doesn't mean federal service. It can mean state service. It can mean local service. It could mean volunteering at a PTA, part of a PTA. There's lots of levels of service. Habitat for Humanity, I mean, you name it. Aside from that, there's some level of stability. You come join federal service, there is a probationary period, and after you clear that probationary period, there is a level of stability, generally speaking, in federal service. But even that has been shaken at its core since the furloughs of last year. It was really this time last year where we were furloughing, hundreds of thousands of federal workers, and that's sad because a lot of these folks, because they don't make a lot of money, live paycheck to paycheck, and the mortgage company doesn't care all that much that you're laid off. They still want their rent check. So. Patience, because again, the wheels of government do not turn quickly. And so, as a school of journalism, you all know that speed is very important. It's one of the critical pieces. We would rather do it right than do it quick. And so those are naturally at odds with each other. I would say that you have to be humble. You're really, this is a rarity. I've actually never been out and spoken publicly before. I've done sort of things off the record and behind closed doors and with student groups, but never really something so public. And most people won't ever in their entire career. You can do 30, 40 years in the intelligence community and never, or in the federal government, period, and never end up on camera. I would say you have to be, in my job, you have to be a good communicator. I'm very cognizant of the number of ums I've said throughout this conversation, and it annoys me, but you can see, like just there, I'm in a situation that I'm not accustomed to, so that just naturally tends for those sorts of pauses to enter your conversation. But generally you have to be a good communicator, both in written and in spoken word. You have to be a people person, be able to work with folks, because a lot of times you need to drive consensus to have a free and open conversation. Well, I did mention patience. So if you want a career in public service, again, the wheels of government do not move quickly. It may be weeks or months before you hear. Don't give up, keep applying. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. There are lots of jobs. Once you're in the government, it's very easy to move between agencies. So if you're looking for a job in journalism, apply to the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, the Department of Veterans Affairs, you name it, apply. Apply to those positions. Who cares if it's not exactly what you're looking for? Because once you're in the door, it's much easier to move around. Oh, and I'm sorry, and if you look at the intelligence community, before I forget, if you decide to look into the intelligence community, be very patient, because the clearance process is lengthy, and don't smoke pot. Well, my undergraduate degrees was marine environmental science. A lot of it dealt with experiences in, work-life experiences. Before coming to this job, I worked with the legislative affairs. Legislative affairs also, again, very much about communicating. Being an honest broker between the Congress and the agency is not that much different between being an honest broker with the public and the agency. If at the end of the day, the biggest compliment somebody could ever give me is that I'm fair. I cut straight across all the lines. I don't have play favorites, or I don't play games. If somebody thinks that I'm fair, that's really all I can ask for. Because I'm not going to be anybody's best friend, so not in my job. So this is gonna sound canned, and I want to apologize, but it really is true. The mission of the center, everyone focuses on counterterrorism. I remember where I was on 9/11. Some of the students here were, 5 years old when 9/11 happened? I remember where I was. I was on a Coast Guard ship off the coast of New York City. So public service has been something that interests me. And I've had several opportunities to leave public service throughout my career. When I left the Coast Guard and went to work on Capitol Hill. When I left Capitol Hill and went to go work for the Director of National Intelligence. Opportunities presented themselves, and I just feel like I feel good about myself when I go home at night. But then we look at like the Boston Marathon bombing. It would be hard for me to put into words what a punch in the gut that was to the men and women of NCTC, who were created in 2004 specifically to stop those sorts of terrorist attacks. Now, some will say we should have followed Tamerlan Tsarnaev's travel even after he was cleared by the FBI. and we should have been checking his Facebook posts and his Twitter and social media, YouTube videos, even after he was cleared through a pretty robust investigation. I don't think that's what you want government doing. I think once you're brought to our attention, we give you the green light, we should let you go on your merry way, and which is unfortunate because it was such an insular group, the two brothers, that in family it's really hard to stomach that. So I was actually on vacation in the Dominican Republic, taking a much needed vacation, and I ended up having to, I didn't have to, I just did. I just came back. A lot of people did, and that's the kind of place we work. So this is probably going to be a negative answer, and I'm sorry for it, but this is the truth. There's a lot of gotcha journalism. I don't have to deal with a lot of gotcha journalism. What I do have to deal with is a lot of folks who are trying to push their sources, which are often federal government employees, for information. And when they get a little tidbit of information, they are working other sources to confirm that, and now they have a secret. They have identified some piece of classified information that they know and they have, and they want us to confirm. And then there's this, it requires almost Herculean efforts to get them to understand that if they release that secret, the consequences could be devastating. And I think that's partly their fault and partly our fault. Their fault because there's this overwhelming desire to be able to publish something that no one else has. Even if it, in my opinion, does nothing to inform the public, the general public view. If you know that you and I had a conversation and you capture that conversation, or you know that we did, so you clearly know that we have intercepted that, why publish that? I don't understand why you want to publish that. And what they'll tell you is, well, we want to show the capabilities of the intelligence community to delve into two persons' conversations. People know that. People know that we can do that. What you're really telling them is that we've tapped two individual persons' conversations, and now once you report that, gone. That conversation, we will never get that again. Never. So there is a little bit of a tension there. It's also our fault within the intelligence community, because we probably, less so now, but I think in the past, we've waved the national security flag maybe a little too quickly instead of having a conversation. So generally speaking, we're good about keeping what needs to be classified. There are notable deviations from that. Most recently, Edward Snowden. It is not actually that hard for us to separate those two, because a lot of what we deal with deals with foreign individuals who are threatening the United States, and many of them wash out. So there's no reason to raise the color code and send America on high alert when there's a good chance that it's going to wash out. And those that don't wash out, we want to keep those investigations secret because we don't want others. We want to see how that plays out. We want to see if that person has other contacts that they're engaging with. So maybe it's a person who's acting on his or her own. Maybe it's a cell. And so these are, investigative priorities that we have to take into account. But there is a natural tension between privacy and secrecy. I think a healthy a dose of both is probably important. If Americans read what I read for the first 30 minutes of my day every morning during our threat briefing with senior staff, they would stay home and lock the doors and never come out. And that's not what we want. And we cannot do that. That is not the society in which we live. So they have to, and this, I know that I hate to say this, they have to trust the government, and I'm very cognizant of where I'm sitting today, but you have to trust the government that we're going to try to protect you. We really will. Because it's our family too, it's our friends too, it's our neighbors.